have a very interesting Discover Trempealeau County show for you today. We're located about a mile or so north of Eleva along Highway 93. We're at the Adams Dairy with Paul Adams, and he's the largest organic dairy farmer in the state of Wisconsin. So we're going to talk to him a little about dairying and organic farming and so forth. I might add, it's kind of a pleasure for me because I was born and raised right across the road from your farm here. And I've known Paul since he was a little tyke. I knew his father, Bill Adams, his grandfather, Rube Adams, and Esther, his mother. She's one of our coordinators for our motor coach tours here in the Eleva area. She lives on the edge of the farm, I guess you'd call it here. And so it's been in the farm a long way. And I got to tell a little story about Paul. I was about 23 years old, just got out of the Army. His dad wanted a little plowing done. I think he had a Ford Ferguson, or maybe a Ferguson tractor, small tractor. I had to do a little plowing for him. So I came over and do a little plowing. I was sitting in the yard trying to figure out how to hook the plow up. And Paul, he's about 5 years old. He comes hobbling over, and I'm having trouble, and you show me how to hook that plow up. I'll never forget that. It was quite a humbling experience. So we go back a long way, and of course you got an uncle. It's Dr. Adams in Whitehall. How long you built your building here? How long ago? When did you move from the lower level to the top of the hill? And first of all, I'm going to ask you why you moved up to the top of the hill, and how long ago has that been?
Well, we were dairying on the home farm at near the house and where the barn was. Added on to that. Then in '94 we decided to grow a little bit larger, grow by a leap, I guess you might say, and we took a look at expanding the old barn, and that just wasn't the right picture, we thought. So we took a leap and built a complete new facility with 364 free stalls and the double 24 milking parlor up here on the hill with natural ventilation, with the curtains wide open in the summertime. We're getting the airflow through and natural ventilation with up here on the hill, and we're also distanced ourselves from the creeks as far as any possible manure contamination entering the groundwaters, the streams that way. So it was a good choice to get it up here, and if you're ever up here in the morning or in the evening for sunrise or sunset, it's a beautiful spot to be too.
I noticed that. It's really beautiful, this unglaciated area, this view of the coulee region as you circle 360 degrees right from where we're standing here. It's a beautiful area that you've selected. And let me ask you a few questions about how many cows do you normally milk per day?
We're normally right around 400 cows in the barn here. Then we have some other dry cows out on pasture and getting fed off out of the barn.
I might add, as long as Wade is filming, you've just fed the cattle some, what do you call it, haylage? Or?
Yeah, it's mostly haylage. We call it a TMR, total mixed ration. It's got haylage in it, and then that mixer, we have the corn for energy and some protein, soybean in it for protein to get the right ration for the group of cows. He mixes up 4 different batches going into the barn with a little different analysis to each one, so we get match the right feed ingredients to the right cows.
Now the haylage, that's like silage, I guess you'd call it. Now where is that? Did you produce that right on the farm here? You don't have any silos, I noticed.
Well, we produce the haylage right here on the farm. Most of our acres is in grass or hay crops, alfalfa, grass. We do harvest just about all of our forage as haylage, putting it into a bunker silo. So we harvest it off the field, cut it, rake it, chop it into a wagon, dump the wagon into trucks, and haul it from the field with a truck into the bunker, dump it there. And then with 2 tractors, one with a push blade on it or a loader, we push the feed up onto the pile and then drive on it until we pack all the air out of it. And once we get the air excluded and packed down, then we seal it with plastic and top it off with some tires just for weight to hold that plastic seal. So we're actually bagging it as oxygen limited as we can on a flat storage, and then we open up one end of that and start feeding from the one end and mixing into the ration.
How does that work in the wintertime?
Pretty good. The haylage is dry enough in moisture that it doesn't freeze real solid. it gets a little bit interesting with snow and ice on top of that plastic when we have to cut the plastic back and expose more feed, but it works.
So where Wade is filming here, is this your 400 cows behind us here? Is this your herd, or do you have another place where they might be?
No, this is the herd. This is a milking herd, and everything in this barn is milking. We freshen them. They have their calves at the old barn, at the old building site. We have just kind of a bedded pack and pasture for them to have their calves on, and then the calf is going into another building, and the cows are being brought up here to be milked.
Let me ask you a few questions about organic. I think a lot of us don't really understand organic the way we should, and you're an organic farmer. Tell us a little bit how you get into how you got into organic. You just who do you sign up with, or who does the checking and verification and certification and all that?
Well, the farm here, I decided that the thing for me to do was to go organic. I just kind of believed in what the principles of it, not using the herbicides and insecticides, and trying to remineralize the soil to get a healthy soil, bringing it back into the herd. So it was a 4-year process for me, because the requirement is 3 years on the soil before you can harvest an organic crop, and I needed my organic crops off my farm to feed to the cows. Once we got the organic feed coming off from the farm, it took another year of feeding that organic feed to the cows before we could ship organic milk. Our farm is inspected once a year, and can be more than that, but it's inspected by an independent certifying agency. So it's an inspector comes out, and we fill out a lot of information beforehand, and then go cover the entire farm. We went to about every edge of every field to see if there was potential contamination from a neighbor's crops onto mine. Then we covered all the cupboards in the milk house and in the milking area to find what products we were using, that there was no potential for a wrong product being used on the cow. Because one thing we don't use at all is antibiotics on cows, because it's prohibited. So it's a pure product without antibiotics, and so they do check.
Now, when you say they, who is they?
Well, there's several different in the nation, and even locally, or fairly locally. There's a statewide organization called MOSA, which is a certifying agency, and I hire them to certify that we are organic.
Now, do they cover, is organic, you say this is maybe one of the largest dairy farmers, organic farmers in the state of Wisconsin that you're aware of?
Yes, that I'm aware of. It's one of the largest in the state. It's rather unusual for a dairy to have gone total confinement like I have with the free stalls and the large herd milking parlor, and then go organic. A lot of the organics has been the smaller farm, and gone organic by with the grazing, which is part of organics, which for me was a little bit difficult, because I have to get these cows out on pasture.
So you do pasture. You not only feed in the barn here, you do let them out on pasture every day?
Yes, we're getting right now we're getting at least half of the herd out every day, and working on getting the rest out, which as it cools down in the fall and we get some better fall growth on the pastures, we'll be getting the rest of the herd outside for every day. But right now they're getting out early in the morning when it's nice conditions out there, and then once it starts to heat up, we bring them back into the barn where we've got the shade and the
water and the sprinklers. Yeah. Well, now this might be kind of a dumb question, but organic, you said you can't use insecticides, antibiotics, pesticides, so how about fertilizer?
We do use some fertilizers, not nitrogen. We try and get the microbes in the soil to manufacture their own nitrogen and grow the crops. And we use a lot of the manure, which is an advantage to a dairy farm for growing crops, is we've got the homegrown manures for putting on. But we do use a lot of minerals, various trace minerals and stuff, trying to get the fields to grow better crops.
So it's organic. Cows eat organic products, and so they're organic. The cows are, and the fields are also organic. So there are kind of two things that are organic on the farm. Am I reading that right?
That's right. You know, if you buy like a organic produce in the grocery store, that would have to have a 3 years on the soil of not having any insecticides, but then they can market the product right off the soil. For me, I had to get that same certification as if it was a vegetable before I could feed it to my cows.
Now, how about the case, for example, well, like this year we're having a little dry weather and the crops are going to be a little light probably. How about buying crops from the outside? What happens if you have to buy crops? Corn or hay or something?
I do buy a fair amount of my corn at this point. Even kind of, I never didn't have the acreage to grow enough corn, so we have bought corn. It's expensive. You know, we get paid more for our milk, but if we're buying corn, we're paying it back out. I'm buying some hay. I like to get mixed with the haylage, which is put up at a moisture, probably 60% moisture. I like to get some dry hay mixed in with that. And right now I'm buying some hay from an organic dairy or an organic crop farmer, excuse me, down in Nebraska. You know, we met up through some meeting, and so I'm buying some pretty nice hay from him. There's some other local hay that I'll be looking at this fall too.
So everything is organic that the cows are eating. Everything organic. It's been certified by an organization as organic. So what is you said you get a little more money for organic milk. Was money the motivator, or was there something else that motivated you to go organic? What was your internal motivation to start organic? Sounds like a lot of extra work.
Well, for me, it was the cattle and the crops. I felt that what I was doing just wasn't quite working right. There just seemed to be some things that were going backwards for me, and just nothing seemed to be quite right. You know, quite a few cows in a hospital group getting treatments, and kind of kept searching for answers on why. And I got convinced that we have to change a little bit our thinkings on some of the chemical, or not the chemical, but the profile of the soil, the calcium magnesium ratios and things that way, to get a better crop there and healthier cows. And the more I studied, the more I came to the conclusion, if I've got healthy cows, the food coming from these cows, the milk is going to be healthier for people. So for me, it was feeling good about the product that I was putting out there, and I guess I'm glad that it's marketed as an organic product, separated out from the way everybody else is doing it. And you know, I look to it, yeah, they're paying us a better pay price, which is helping me. Actually, I've been able to get more, modify the soil back to a better quality.
Have you noticed the soil having more earthworms and things like that since you went organic? Of course, you haven't been officially certified too long, have you? But you've been working at it for 4 years.
I've been working at it for 4 years, and I am starting to see more and more earthworms out there. Yeah, it's changing. It's going to take some time, but it's changing.
How about the healthier cows? You mentioned that you thought it helped your health. Have you noticed that in your cattle, that they're more healthy than they were under the old system, non-organic?
Yeah, I have. When we made the choice to switch to organic, our vet bill at one time was probably $5,000 a month, and it dropped to about $500 a month.
Wow,
so it was a major change for us, and we could just see it. We had a hospital group that had to be treating animals, and that kind of just about disappeared. So it's been a nice change.
Well, I do notice one thing about your cows: they look good. They look you know, look like they're well fed. They're not thin, and they look healthy. Let me ask you, Paul, about this. By the way, you know, when I was born and raised in this area 55 years ago, there were 13 farmers in the 3 miles from the wayside north of Eleva to Eleva. There were 13 farms in all these little valleys, and Bill, your father, was one of them. But you're the only one left, and I think you're milking more than the 13 dairy farmers were when I was growing up. Let me ask you, now you sell your milk. Now this has to be something specialized, like an organic creamery or something that you sell it to. Tell us about that.
Yes, it is. We're shipping our milk to Organic Valley down at Lafarge. It's a small co-op of probably 340 dairy farmers. They also have eggs and beef and things like that. So there's just over 500 members in the co-op. But it's a special. It is the largest organic milk co-op in the nation, and they ship milk. And they also they have dairy farms on both coasts. The milk at those farms being completely bottled into fluid milk. Probably better than 50% of the milk shipped into Organic Valley is bottled for fluid. And some of the cheeses and butters would be manufactured here in Wisconsin because that's where a lot of the volume is, but not a lot of the fluid market is. So my milk is probably some of the time is getting bottled and probably going to the East Coast.
So they have trucks. They actually come out and pick up your milk here on the farm then from Lafarge. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to be in an area that has enough producers organic that they have a truckload of milk coming from the area. And there are a few others that once I found out a little bit about organic and I found out, oh, I've got neighbors that are already shipping there. It kind of surprised me, but there's enough volume in this area that there's a truck that they pick it up.
And did I understand you correctly that Lafarge would be shipping this organic milk for consumption throughout the United States?
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
So you got quite a source of that milk. Is the demand growing for milk, organic milk?
Yes, it is. It's been good demand. We had kind of jitters at first. We got our milk going on to being picked up in October, and usually milk flow come spring. With our grazing, there's a lot of milk flow that comes into the co-op, and if they get too much, the last person on the truck gets pushed back to the conventional pay price. But there was more milk even being demanded during that flush milk period, so the demand is there now, and it's been growing pretty strongly.
Well, now we're in Paul Adams' milking parlor, and you've had a group of cows that just come in. How many cows do you have in here at one time in your parlor?
We have 12 cows on each side of the parlor. So right now the one group came in. They're going through pre-dipping them with an iodine and aloe mixture to sanitize the teat and soften the teat. And so they'll go through, dip it with that, and then pretty quick here they'll be coming back through to wipe that off and stimulate the milk down on the cow.
So how many cows do you have that are you milking approximately?
We're milking about 400 cows in the barn.
About how long does it take you to milk 400 cows?
It's about a 6-hour project between setting up the milkers and cleaning up.
About 6 hours.
Yeah.
So that's twice a day?
3 times a day we're milking.
So that's 18 hours.
Right.
Per day.
That's right.
You're milking the major part of a day then.
Right.
How about the cows that Wade is filming here just came in, and do they always come in the same sequence, or don't you know how they're going to come in?
You don't really know how they're going to come in, but they do kind of. You'll find that probably the first cow is usually the first cow, and then the fourth and fifth and sixth are kind of mixed around a little bit, and then the tail end ones are still kind of the tail end. It's pretty much the same if you're bringing them into the parlor, you're bringing them up to milk. If you're taking them out to pasture, you've got the cows that are out there first, and then there's kind of the middle group, and then there's a few at the end, and it's even bringing them back, it's probably the same cows in the lead. So it's interesting, but they do kind of take a general area.
So they've got kind of a peck order then, you might say.
Yes, they do. Yes.
Now, we got 24 cows in your milking parlor here, and about how long do you actually milk before they leave? In other words, how long does it take to milk the 24 cows? And I noticed you normally have about 2 people working here in the milking parlor?
Yes, we have 2 people that take care of the milking. Right now they're both in here milking. There's actually 5 groups of cows that come through here. So when one group is getting about done, the second milker goes out and brings up the next group so they're ready to come in. He brings them up into the holding pen behind, and then they wait until their turn to come in here. Right now he's attaching the milkers. He pushes a start button that lets the air start on the unit. He attaches the unit to the 4 quarters teats, and then kind of adjusts the arm to get the correct tension on it so the milker itself has the right weight.
Well, it's a long time since I've milked cows. I was born and raised on a dairy farm right across from your place here, but does this like automatically stop when they're done milking or not?
Yes, it will. It's got an automatic sensor that detects as the milk flow gets less and less. It detects it and then trips the valve that retracts shuts the vacuum off to the teat cup and then retracts the arm. Once the milker is attached to the cow, it's going into a line, then into a stainless. We also have a stainless steel receiving jar at each cow, so we know how much each cow gave for the milking. Right now we're on our late lactation group, so the jars won't look very full when they get done, and so visually the milker can see how the cow did. If she's way off on milk, they'll take a look at the cow and see if we need to spend some time on her for health reasons.
Do you have any like correlation between the amount of milk and the amount of feed that you might give the cow?
Yeah, we keep balancing rations, and early lactation, of course, they milk a little better, and as they get towards the end of their lactation, the curve drops down. But yeah, the feed quality has a big difference. Last year's feed for us just wasn't working. We switched to this year's feed with a different weather and timing for getting it put up, and actually the whole herd came up about 5 pounds of milk just from switching from last year's feed to this year.
And we might remind everybody, Paul here is the largest organic farmer, dairy farmer in the state of Wisconsin. So what Wade is filming is organic milk. Paul, can you explain what's going on?
That whole group of cows just got done being milked, and now it's released underneath the bar. The bar goes up. They know what's coming down again, so they step out of the way. And then as that comes down, the entrance gates opens for the next group of cows to come in the back. At the same time as that bar is coming down, our milker units are being back flushed. Any milk that's still in the claw that was left over gets vacuumed out into the weigh jar so it doesn't go to waste. And then we have a water and iodine flush going backwards through the claw to sanitize the unit before it goes on the next cow. Once that water gets pushed through the claw, there's a little bit of residual left, but it opens a valve that vacuum actually sucks that back out into another jar that discharges it down the drain. So it's sanitized between cows besides the teat dip that cleans the teats, and then milker cleaning the teat to make sure we've got a clean product going into the stainless steel line.
A lot of automation there, haven't you?
Yes, there is quite a bit of automation to keep operating, but it flows quite well, and once the cows get used to moving in and out, it goes quite well.
Like the ad, it's a pretty hot day today, and it's really comfortable in here. You've got an air conditioner going, I think.
Close to air conditioned. We've got some big fans that move air through the parlor from front to back, and then once it gets to the back with a holding pen area there with a group of cows, we've got 4 more fans that are kind of directed downward onto those cows. And when it gets hot like this, there's a water sprinkler system that kicks on there. It's on for 3 minutes, gets the cow soaked up, and then it shuts off and it lets her dry off in that cold wind, or that would-be cold wind. As it evaporates off the cow, it cools her off. We have that both in the holding pen and out in the freestall barn, so during the hot sun they're under a roof and keeping shaded.
Well, now, Paul, we're in your milk house here, and by the way, milk house is so modern. I'm used to the old style milk houses. You don't have too many old style things here, although you do have a sink sitting over there that's kind of maybe hasn't changed much in the last 50 years, but everything else is really different. Explain now, we talked about the milking the cows, pumping it, and it was going to the milk house. So take it from there.
Well, the milk, the milk coming out of the milking parlor is coming into the milk house, being transferred in here in a hurry because when those cows left, that milk got pumped in here in a hurry. So it's coming into this large vat. It's filling up part way, and then a sensor tells it that it's filling up, and it starts a pump on this vat that moves it slowly through a plate, what we call a plate cooler. And it has stainless steel plates, and on one side of the plate is water, well water, and the other side is milk. So every other side it's water on one side, milk on the other. And the water's going one direction to cool it, while the warm milk comes in and goes the opposite direction. So it's cooling that milk from 100 degrees down to about 60 degrees, just with well water. And that water, by the way, is going out into a holding tank, and it's what waters our cows in the barn.
And from there, Paul, it goes where?
We're going from there around the opposite side of the milk house through stainless steel lines, and we're coming into the bottom on a stainless steel tank. We've got two tanks in here. The bigger one is a 4,000 gallon tank. The smaller one, 2,000 gallons. We have capacity to hold 2 days of milk. And so we could go to every other day pickup. At this point, the milk hauler likes to pick it up every day, so that's what he's doing. We bottom fill both of these tanks. At one point, we had 2 tanks of about the same size, and we could hook up to both tanks, and they would fill by gravity equally, so we didn't have to worry about one tank overfilling and then switching to the other. We could just fill them from the bottom and not worry about it.
How about these tanks now? Do they also have a cooling effect? You'd said it dropped from 100 to 60 with this little cooler behind us. How about here? What's the final drop in the milk cooling? Or does that happen inside the tank?
Yes, inside the tank. The tanks are actually 2 layers of stainless steel with insulation between them, and then there's refrigeration coils surrounding the milk, and a couple of 5-horse compressors on each tank to drop that milk from that 60 degrees on down to about 38 degrees where it's stabilized and stored. It's agitated every so often, so the temperature doesn't get warmer in one place than another, but in agitation and during the cooling it's agitated so it doesn't freeze onto any of the cooling plates in there.
Now, the majority of these tanks are outside, right? We're only seeing a little portion, what, 1/4 of it or 1/3?
Yeah, only a small portion of it. Less than a fourth of it is in here. Mostly in here we have the access with the manhole on the top, so we can visually inspect to see if it's clean visually and take a milk sample before it's loaded out of here.
Paul, tell us a little about your family. How many children do you have? And I know your wife is a pharmacist, I believe.
Yes, married to Joanne, and she's a pharmacist working up in Eau Claire area, and I have a son and a daughter. My son Tim just graduated from University of Minnesota Crookston and has come back to farm with us on the dairy. And my daughter Becky is going to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. She'll be a junior down there. And she also shows brown Swiss cattle.
I'm going to ask her about those. But let me ask you another thing. Your son is going to be taking over and helping you on the farm. That's good news. That means this Adams farm, which has been in the family for how many years?
Since 1872, it's been in the Adams name. So
it's going to continue on. So that's really good news. And Becky, really exciting. Something really exciting. Just, a week ago, you won a big award at the state fair. Tell us about that.
Yep. I exhibited the Supreme Champion of the Wisconsin State Fair Junior Show, which of all the animals shown there, she was the top animal out of all of them.
Boy, now that's the top animal in the state of Wisconsin in the Junior Show. Is that correct?
Yep.
How did you, how you bought this animal as a young calf, right? This cow. Mm-hmm. How were you able to select an animal that you perceived was going to win something big like this? Is big,
Yeah. Well, I guess as a junior, I got into a little bit of judging and 4-H and whatnot with the county, Eau Claire County, and I guess through that kind of learned a little bit about what a nice animal looks like, and got my mom and my brother talked into going to a sale over in Minnesota and picked out the heifer myself, bid on her, and bought her 2 years ago and been showing her since.
Well, we saw your award, not a plaque, but a trophy, I guess
Yep.
you'd call it, down at the house. A beautiful trophy. That's quite an honor. I want to congratulate you.
Thank you.
Now you're rich. Now your father will be wanting to borrow a little money from you one of these days. Huh?
Yep.
Well, congratulations, Becky, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Maybe you could talk a little about your stalls. What kind of impresses me about these stalls, I remember the days when we had stanchions of cows manured a lot on the stall. There's no manure on the stall. Did you clean it up before we came here to film?
Well, we do go through. When a milker brings up a group of cows, he does go through with a little hand scraper and scrapes off any manure that would get up on the stalls. And then we throw some dried sawdust up on there a couple times a week to give them a little bit of clean material to kind of sweep the stall with. The stalls are a fabric material covering ground up rubber tire particles, so they're it's a mattress. There's actually some cushion to it that the cows can stand on or lay on, and they're free to go in and out whenever they want. A lot of them right now are up at the feed front eating. They came back from being milked not too long ago and they're still eating, but yet we've got quite a few cows laying down in stalls.
Paul, I think what we're looking at now is how you get your manure out of your barn. Could you explain that?
Well, we've got the cows are in loose housing, free stalls, and the manure that drops on the walkway is pulled down through with an alley scraper to the center of the barn.
I think I can see that. I think Wade is maybe filming that right now.
Yeah, once that scraper blade gets to the far end, it reverses and comes back, folds up so it can come past the manure, and then when it gets back here towards us, it opens up and takes the manure to that end again.
Is that working continually?
Right, and it moves very slow, so the cows just kind of walk around it like it's not an inconvenience at all. And we just have it running steady, because if it parks, it kind of parks in their way down there in the middle.
Now, I think we're going to be talking about it later, but it drops into some kind of a little pit or something at that. When it gets to the other end, will you explain then what happens to it then, the manure?
Yeah, it drops into a pit down there, and then from there it's pumped through a separation system where we remove the solids from the liquids. Liquids then go into a 3 million gallon holding lagoon, and we take them out to the field. The solids are going out a conveyor onto a pile, and those will either, a regular manure spreader, box spreader, or we'll truck them to more distant fields and pile it there. Eventually I want to be composting that manure solids, so it's an even better product going back on the biology of the farm. With the separator, we have a much more liquid product out here, and so with it being more liquid, we're trying to aerate it with aerators and reduce the odor on it, break down the organic matter so it's a lot more soil friendly when it goes out.
Well, one thing I've observed here as we've been traveling around your dairy here, all the way from the milking to the manure, you've got just an awful lot of different machines that are working. Machines everywhere you turn, there's machines doing things. Did they all work pretty well? It must be kind of a maintenance problem with machines, isn't there?
Well, there is that. And any farm of this size, we do have one guy that's pretty much totally a mechanic and fixes things, and just a handyman is almost a necessity for us. But there is a lot of mechanical things going on, and a lot of people. There's probably about 9 employees here working, four of them just milking, another guy feeding, another we end up bedding the stalls and cleaning pens and watching for newborn calves down below, and just kind of keeping everybody busy.
You've got a full-time job just managing, don't you?
For the most part, I do get out there and get my hands dirty too, though. But one thing I was going to mention is we do have our calves being custom raised. We were having some problems with the baby calves, and we found somebody that was real good with them, and so they're being raised on another farm. But being organic, it adds a little bit of a different twist. We had to find an organic farm, so the young gal that's raising them is buying organic milk from her dad to feed my calves.
Well, now we're looking at Paul Adams, one of his organic fields. By the way, Paul, how many acres do you have altogether?
We're working with about 900 acres altogether on crops. It takes quite a few to feed that many cattle. Between 400 plus milk cows, there's probably another 300 head of young stock that we take care of, pasturing the heifers and then producing crops for the wintertime.
Now the field we're standing on, they are working this field up. I guess they must have had a little maintenance problem or something, just left moments ago. But could you explain what they did here? It looks like the field has a lot of vegetation on it, and here they have pretty well worked up.
Well, we were able to purchase a farm fairly close to the home farm here that was in CRP for 11 years. So we're taking it out of CRP. We're tilling in all the vegetation that was on the field. We're using a rotavator. It's just like a rototiller, about 11.5 feet wide. So we're traveling at a real slow speed across the field to try and chew up all the sod and mix in the grass. We don't use anything like a Roundup to kill it off, so we work with Mother Nature. Right now we're doing it in a hot, dry time, so getting those roots up to the sun and baking them. So we're killing off the grass, so next year we don't have a problem with grass. We plan on taking and spreading some of the liquid from our lagoon on this to add the nitrogen and necessary ingredients to get the plants breaking down. And then we'll probably till it in to get that manure mixed in with it good, and come back in here in the fall with a rye crop, plant that. So that'll suck up a lot of the nutrients out of the soil and all the decaying material. In the spring, I plan on working that rye crop in, and that'll store the nutrients for the corn crop. And as it gets later into the year, that'll be breaking down and supplying nutrients for the corn. So it's all a cycle and working with Mother Nature.
I'm rather impressed with this. If you look at this is pretty well worked up, this soil. And is this one pass with your rotavator?
Yes, it is. We're getting a pretty good mix with it. It's chopping up some of that long grass and stirring the soil into it, so we should get a real breakdown of this material and creating a real good organic matter in that soil. It's a rather light soil, but once we get that mixed in with the organic matter, I'm thinking we'll have some pretty good crops off from it.
Well, this method, is this to help reduce weeds, like say quackgrass and things like that too?
Yes, it should. It should take care of the grasses, getting them tilled up. Those roots, like a quackgrass, usually the thing to do is get that root up to the sun so it kind of kills it, and then work it up again so it gets any roots that were buried back up to the sun.
You don't work any real weed killer on this, so.
Right. You and your dad started that, and I remember seeing slides of that way back when I was a little kid growing up of working up.
We call it renovation. You didn't plow, you renovated. Explain this work of Mother Nature, and you don't use weed killer, you don't use things for bugs. How does nature kind of reach the balance? And you get the production and everything. Can you put that into words that we could understand?
Well, working with Mother Nature, like on this field, we're trying to get it to break down with Mother Nature rather than using a chemical on it. Once we balance the soils right and get the biology working there, the plants become healthier and they contain more sugar, and the bugs really don't like sugar in plants, so they kind of go away and try and destroy plants that we shouldn't be eating anyway. So as we get the biology in the soil working healthier, the plants become healthier, the bugs stay away from it, and the cows are healthier from eating it, and then the people that drink the milk are healthier too.
Well, I think you got something going here, Paul. I think you're beginning of the future. What's going to happen in the future?
Well, I hope so. I sure feel it is, and I'm really enjoying and encouraged at farming the way I am doing it now.
There's a lot of management connected with that, isn't there? We're talking on the way up here. There's a lot of things that you have to keep track of.
Yes, there is. I know one thing we didn't mention was that you should be able to track back where milk was produced on what field. So I have to keep records of what I apply to each field for the organic certification, where that I keep track of how many tons came off from that field, what bunker silo it went into, and then when we're feeding that out, I keep a record of bunker 4 had haylage coming out of it, going to these groups of cattle, and what time, when it went into them. And so there's a lot of record keeping, so we know what's happening to these fields and how we're improving them and where the food is going off from the field.
Well, you maybe don't know this, but do you know any place in Trempealeau County, this is Trempealeau County's show, where you could buy some of your organic milk?
I'm not sure in Trempealeau County. I've kind of got it made. I can get some of the organic butter and organic cheese back off from the milk truck, but I know Eau Claire has some areas where they've got organic sections in the store, and the Organic Valley has their milk there and their butter there, and orange juice and things that way, cheeses.
Well, you've been at this now for like 4 years, I think you said, and have you got anything you do different or any regrets or anything?
No regrets. I'm liking it. It looks like a future to me. And I think it's going to make a room for my son and daughter to come back on either this farm or they've got an interest in farming, and I think they'll have a place to express that interest.
Well, I think it's really fantastic that somebody big. I usually thought of organic as somebody small, a small farmer, but you're a large farmer. In fact, the largest organic dairy farmer in the state. So is there anything else that we maybe missed here in the show today?
No, we've had a beautiful day to be out here, and that's part of farming, is you get out here and see the birds flying and the wildlife and see the sun rise and set, and it's just a beautiful day.
Well, thank you very much, Paul. Paul Adams from Eleva. It's been an enjoyable time, and we hope you enjoyed the program, and we'll see you on the next Discover Trempealeau County very soon.